Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the webinar. And we have a fabulous panel for you this afternoon or this morning, wherever you happen to be, and looking very much forward to working with them in answering the really important question in today's very different market: what do partners really want from their vendors? So just waiting for our panelists to turn their cameras on and we can get cracking. But as we do that, let me just start with a couple of housekeeping issues. This is a panel, so very much want everyone to get involved, ask questions, make comments, which you can do in two ways. You can ask live via the microphone. So as you can see there on your control panel, you can virtually raise your hand. We can then unmute you and you can ask the question live, or alternately, use the question module and simply type in your question, and we will take that question and put it to our panel. So without further ado, let me introduce our panelists for you. And our first panelist is Chanan Greenberg. He's the SVP and General Manager of Technology for Model N. He's very much focused on helping companies maximize profitable revenue and channel engagement. He's been with Model N for 15 years, as I said, as the SVP and General Manager of High Tech. He's worked with over 100 companies on pricing and channel incentives. And prior to Model N, he was the CEO and founder of Privia, which was focused on the government contracting space, and also CEO and chairman of Click Online, which was focused on online and multimedia product development. So Chanan, tell me just briefly a little bit about Model N.
Thanks, Rod, and good morning, everyone. It's great to be here with this very distinguished panel of colleagues from the industry. Model N is a software company, 20-year-old software company based in Silicon Valley, publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange. And we have two business practices, one focused on life sciences, the other focused on high tech. I lead the high tech side of the business. And there we focus primarily on helping companies improve their engagement in the channel, manage very large programs of rebates, MDFs, price protection, inventory management, as well as pricing and quoting in the channel. And last but not least, we also manage channel data management for many of the top 50 high-tech global companies.
Wonderful. And our second panelist is Dan Overgaag, and Dan is Managing Director of the Spur Group. He leads the firm's channel management, sales transformation, and business operations practices. Dan's got over 12 years industry experience. He's led countless strategic initiatives to large technology firms, advising on things like channel management, channel incentives, and helping drive efficiencies and develop new programs and portfolios. Dan loves the Pacific Northwest and taking advantage of the wide variety of outdoor activities available. And since he's been in quarantine, he's been spending time working in his yard and keeping his kids from destroying the house, alongside the dog, no doubt. So Dan, a little bit about Spur.
Yeah, no, thank you panelists or fellow panelists, and welcome everybody. It's an honor to be here today. Spur Group, we're a consultancy in the Pacific Northwest. We're located in Redmond and focus exclusively on go-to-market efforts and accelerating a company's revenue. You know, we're primarily focused in the high-tech space. And, you know, as Ron mentioned, I lead our channel management and our business operations practice areas. And, you know, our channel management practice area includes, you know, services ranging from, you know, incentive strategy to channel operations to program design to, you know, field enablement. So I'm excited to be here this morning.
Excellent. And our third panelist is Sal Patalano. And Sal is with Mindmatrix. He's a partner and CRO for the company. And Sal's a serial entrepreneur. He's founded multiple IT companies. He's been on many sides of the industry. He's been an IBM business partner for over 15 years. He's worked in the channel for many Fortune 500 companies, including companies like IBM, CA, and most recently Lenovo. He's listed as one of the top 100 most influential people in the channel. There's something to live up to, Sal. And he's a well-known public speaker, but also very well known for putting a provocative twist on the things he's talking about. So, Sal, tell us a little bit about Mindmatrix.
You bet, Rod. First of all, appreciate the invitation and delighted to be here in front of a great audience. And of course, always fun to spend time with the guys on the panel as we used to do face-to-face. Hopefully we will again. Mindmatrix is in the space of partner relationship management, PRM, big focus on channel automation, sales enablement, things like that. The company's been around, oh gosh, over 20 years, headquartered out of Pittsburgh. And we like to consider ourselves one of the dominant leaders in the PRM space, and not to take away from the competitors, great companies out there, but we're just a little bit ahead and a little bit more focused on service and taking care of our partners. So I'll throw that challenge, I'll throw that down for any of our competitors who are listening in on the call. Bring it, everybody, we're ready.
Excellent. And our fourth panelist is Mike Moore. And Mike is the VP of Channel Sales for E2Open. And Mike was formerly a channel and field marketing professional at Microsoft, GE Healthcare, and Progress Software. But Mike has also worked for 3 channel partners. So again, he understands both sides of the equation, the vendor side and the partner side of the house. He's also the author of one of the only books on channel marketing, Marketing Multiplied, a real-world guide to channel marketing for beginners, practitioners, and executives. And he's currently working with E2Open's channel customers to provide advice, coaching, and best practices on the strategy and tactics associated with their channel programs. So, Mike, tell us a little bit about E2Open.
Yeah, thanks, Rod. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. E2Open offers a channel management suite of applications. So everything from MDF, incentives, rebates, channel marketing automation, channel data management, and of course, the managed services to go along with that. Team brings a huge amount of expertise and history and experience. E2Open's probably the biggest channel player you've never heard of. The company has got its roots in supply chain, but has built an incredible channel management suite, largely through acquisition. So companies like Birch and CCI and Veritech, where I came from, have come together to be this channel practice at E2Open. So a lot of experience in the team, and it's our pleasure to join this panel today and share some best practices and things that we're talking to customers about in these uncertain and strange times that we live in. So thank you.
Fabulous. So today's topic is, in today's very different market, what do partners really want from their vendors? And I thought we'd kick in with a couple of polls. And so if we could start with the first poll, what is the single biggest request you're receiving from your partners today? So if everyone could pop in their answer, and I can see people starting to vote. Just click on one of those buttons. Let's get a feel for where we all are as an audience. So keep those votes coming in. Got more than 50% of people who voted currently. We'll keep the polls open for another few seconds. So get those votes in, everyone, and let's see where we all stand. I think this is going to provide really interesting information for everyone on the call. So just 5 seconds left. Anyone who hasn't voted, now's your chance. Get those votes in, click those buttons, and almost everyone has voted now. So I'm going to close the polls in just a couple of seconds, and let's see where we are. So what's the biggest single request you're receiving from your partners today? 23% say financial help, 43% say marketing and sales support, 19% market sector insights and guidance, 8% extended product trials, deal reg, etc., and 7% something else. So perhaps I can start with you, Mike. Any thoughts or comments on the poll?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I would take away from the feedback here in the group is that ultimately, as much change as we're all dealing with and processing, some fundamentals still remain. Ultimately, channel partners want help meeting more customers. And so whether it's the marketing and sales support or the market sector insights and guidance, they're trying to figure out, who is moving forward still from a customer standpoint, who's looking to buy because they want to continue to try to grow their business. So that's my biggest takeaway in this this poll.
Okay, anyone else want to chip in on that one?
No, I'd agree with Mike. I think the other interesting thing is I would imagine that this poll might shift a little bit depending on the customer segment served as well, because I think there are certain industry segments that are more highly impacted than others that, marketing and sales support, might be, higher priority than, market insights and guidance. So, this certainly resonates.
Excellent.
I'd just like to add, sorry, go ahead.
Go on, Chanan.
I just wanted to add to what Mike said. I think that it's the more forward-thinking channels who know that their vendors have data they don't have, and by getting the insights, they can actually apply their investments in marketing and sales more effectively. And so I think that these two elements actually support each other. It's almost like a force multiplier, that if you knew which segments you should spend your time on, your sales and marketing investment will be significantly more effective as a channel.
Yeah,
and Sal, any final thoughts?
I would chime in on that as well. The one thing that strikes me from this, I'm not sure if we did this poll a year ago, financial help would rank so high at 23%. I'm not surprised marketing support, market insights, extended product trials, all of that makes sense to me, but it seems like financial help is ranked highly, and I would of course write that off to the current COVID situation. But again, Rod, I think that's something that would have been further down the poll. Would be my position anyway.
Excellent. Okay, and we're going to have one more poll before we dig into some questions. So our second poll is, where do you think your partners are struggling the most? And if you think they're struggling in more than one area, tick more than one box. So are they struggling with the move to digital marketing, the move to remote selling, the move to remote servicing and support, struggling with a hold on major IT projects, or clients who are unable to pay them? So where are you hearing things the most? Keep ticking those boxes. And as I say, on this one, you can tick multiple boxes. So keep those votes coming in. We've got about 50% of the people on the call have voted so far. This will take just a moment longer because you've got multiple options there. So as I say, click the ones that are most relevant for you. So about 75% of people have voted. We'll keep the poll open for just another few seconds. Keep those votes coming in. We're going to close the poll in about 5 seconds time. Excellent. So let's see the results. So where do you think your partners are struggling the most? Well, the biggest one is the move to remote selling. 49% of us think that's a huge challenge. Next is the move to digital marketing. Then a hold on major IT projects. Clients are unable to pay them, coming fifth. And coming fourth, the move to remote servicing and support. So Sal, you came on last time. How about coming in and commenting on this one?
Well, again, Rod, at the risk of kind of going with the flow here, I don't see anything surprising. The remote selling obviously is going to be the biggest pain point for us, particularly those partners who are working more of a local market, or extending out at not too great a radius, if you will. The move to digital marketing, I think, has been an ongoing problem. You could almost say all of the above with this. And when you and I spoke a few days back, I said it'd be nice to rank these, and we've gotten a ranking on this now. And I'm not too I'm not too surprised with any of this. Remote servicing and support, that's what the partners do, right? I mean, they're geared up to do that, so not surprised to see that low. And I think digital marketing's always been an issue. So the move to remote selling, to me, I can see how that would be first and foremost. Not surprised at all.
Okay. Chanan, do you want to come in on this one?
No, actually, I agree with everything Sal just said, so I'll let someone else add.
Anyone else want to chip in? How about you, Dan?
Yeah, I likewise agree. I think it's interesting that the hold on major IT projects, that's, a pretty high one, and it, probably is reflected in the previous poll with help on sales and marketing. You just need to, turn over more rocks, and because there's more getting put on hold.
Excellent. And so, Mike, let me come at you with this one with from a slightly different angle. If the problem is the move to remote selling, what are you seeing your customers doing to enable that? What do you think the people on the call should be doing to help our partners overcome the challenges of remote selling?
Yeah, I think it's funny because the point that's being made there, just kind of backing up a step, like coming into 2020, everybody was still talking about digital transformation, like whatever that meant, right? And then, Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, even said something about, 2 years worth of digital transformation is taking place in 2 months' time. Was kind of a well-publicized article. A lot of the customers that I talk to are looking at this and saying, maybe now we finally made the point to channel partners that they need to up their digital skills. I wrote a blog article in the Veritech blog a while ago about how events, face-to-face events, are not a marketing strategy, right? Like IT channel partners known for just hosting a bunch of face-to-face events, steakhouses, luxury boxes. Isn't that marketing? No. Like those of us who actually embrace digital marketing know that that's not enough. So
Sounds pretty good.
The customers, yes, many steaks we can tell Sal, but the thing that we've tried to encourage customers to think about now is, okay, maybe now we finally captured channel partners' attention that they need to diversify, change their marketing mix a little bit, and embrace some of the digital marketing tactics. So what's the best way to do that? Don't just kind of jam them into a product like ours and say, go use the Partner Demand Center and customize campaigns and launch it out. Put together a bit of a boot camp program. Provide some instruction and some coaching. Give them real world homework assignment that they can do in your tools like a Partner Demand Center, but then also bring them back to the boot camp session next week. Give them feedback, give them support, and then give them new homework assignments. So I think you really have to kind of put them alongside, because in a pandemic, it's probably not the best time to try to get people to learn new skills, but it's a good time to be helpful, to coach people, to be alongside them and support them as they're trying to make this transformation.
Yeah, if I might, Rod, excuse me. Mike and I think, are in a somewhat unique position on this one, because we're involved a great deal in channel sales enablement. It's part of what our day-to-day is all about. And I think how you're going to go about doing that is really critical, because to Mike's point, this is not the best time to sit someone down and say, hey, here's a new way to do something, start adopting this. I don't think it's the best time for that. And I'm not always sure that even that's best done remotely. I'm not entirely convinced on that one yet, but I do think there are tools in the market today that will allow you to drive channel sales enablement and to do it effectively. And they're not terribly expensive. And all of us have had experience, and I'm sure that 75% of the folks listening in on this have as well. So I would encourage them, look to the organizations that have viable, well-tested, well-thought-out channel sales enablement programs, and they're out there. So I think Mike hit the nail on the head with that one.
Well, and just one response to that too, I think, and this is again something that I'm telling our customers, is that because everyone in the world is going through this, everybody's on a level playing field. So it used to be, well, I really have to keep doing this because our competition does this. Well, if everybody's back in their home office now, that levels the playing field. And it also, we see people on network television every night who are in their homes doing network news interviews and presentations, right? So the production bar has reduced as well. So that to me lessens the barrier to entry. Channel partners should be more willing to to go and do something like a Zoom video and send that out to customers as a piece that they can drop, versus having to hire a film crew and go through all kinds of expensive production because everybody's in the same boat.
Chanan, you're nodding on that one. Do you want to come in?
No, I was just profusely agreeing with what Mike said.
Excellent. And
yeah, I was gonna comment,
remote
Rod.
selling.
I think that, like Mike and Sal, I think you're right that now's not a good time to try to push something, but I think now is a good time for vendors to be, pretty magnanimous with their enablement and with their learning libraries and with their content marketing, and trying to open that up as much as they possibly can, because now, if you're a partner, now might actually be a really good time to start taking advantage of some of those things and upping the level as a partner and getting different certifications and adding different capabilities, because it's a weird time, and that's how you might survive, is to broaden. So you wouldn't want to certainly force something, but now might actually be a really good time to enable that advancement and that training and that learning for your partners.
Yeah. So push on your vendors. Really.
Yeah, exactly.
Push on your vendors, and if they're if they're not being responsive now, when you really need them, and I've been a vendor, right? IBM, CA, I get it, Lenovo. If they're not there for you now, there's a message in there to be taken, and you have to determine what to do with it as a partner, or those of you running businesses. But there is a definite message in there, and now's the time to lean on them. And you're going to find the vendors who are serious about the channel are putting their money where their mouth is. And they're not just doing that by added discounts and things like that. They're doing it by providing you with what you really need. So the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And if you don't get oil, then it might be time to look around and consider other options.
Well, and on that point, I think that the brands, I think a lot of channel partners think like, well, I'm just one of thousands, and it's kind of nameless, faceless entity. I don't know that I can go to a Microsoft or somebody like that and give them feedback that they'll listen to. And I think it's actually, when you work for a brand like Microsoft, and I did for many years, you might get bits of feedback and you crave it, right? You really want to hear from partners, because for the one partner that took the time to try to break through and give that feedback directly to somebody who's running one of the programs, there are probably tens or dozens or hundreds or thousands potentially of other partners who feel the same way. So you try not to over-rotate on one piece of feedback, but oftentimes it is that squeaky wheel who's bringing up a need on behalf of the community that then you can socialize a bit and validate, make sure that other partners have that need. It's not just unique to them, but then really make sure that you're tuning in a program to them. So we talked to a customer a couple of weeks ago. They were saying, I heard from a partner who wants to try podcasting, but they don't know where to start. They're asking us for guidance and support because we have a corporate podcast. How would I do something like that and scale it through channel partners? And that's a great opportunity when partners are especially looking to embrace, podcasting is not new media by any stretch, right? But to some it's new. So how do you help them kind of quickly take a jump forward in a program like that? That's a great opportunity for a brand to show a ton of empathy to the channel partners and help them with something that will benefit all of them in the long run.
Agreed.
I do want to add one thing, if I can, which is there is some correlation between what we saw in the second question to the first. And when you think about things like, the projects being on hold, clients having difficulties in paying, and generally the challenges of remote selling, and you think about the first question, which showed that the second thing on the list, 23% of the people spoke about financial aid. There is, as much help as we want to provide, or want to see the vendors providing the channels on enablement, on making libraries like Dan spoke about available to them, helping them with new ideas on marketing, like Mike just said. We shouldn't underestimate the importance of the financial aid. It was number 2 on the list there, and financial aid has many forms. It's not just about discounting, like Sal spoke about, but it's also about making sure that you're helping the channels see how your programs, your incentives are aligning with the segments that if they spend time there, they'll get a better return. So you're really guiding them to where the dollars are with those programs, extending programs and extending funds. So you're unable to use all of your MDF funds, we'll extend it for another quarter, another 2 quarters. Because again, all the things were important, and money was number 2 on the list. So that's one of the ways that people can really help.
Yeah, absolutely. Cash flow is really important for partners, and that's really struggle for them.
Okay. And I've got, backing up on that, I've got to keep those questions coming in because I'm getting quite a few coming through now. So backing up on that, Chanan, I've got an interesting question here. I know some of our partners need financial help, and some don't. How do I differentiate between the two, and how do I ever put that into a program?
Well, I think that I think that number one thing is if you have high quality data, and that's the big question, is if you really have good insights and timely insights into their POS and the inventory, then you have everything you need to know about who really needs the help and who doesn't. Because those are the key leading indicators. If you have a channel that is successfully depleting their inventory at a great rate and their POS is showing that the prices are where they are, you can create a very quick scorecard of which channels are having a real hard time in execution. And you can focus on the ones that, are the ones where they're struggling. Now, they might be struggling because traditionally they were not doing a good job for you anyway. So you want to be able to not only look at the specific point in time data, but you want to look at the trend of what was going on last year when everything was great. And if they were doing great before and now they really are struggling, those are the ones you want to pay attention to and see where you can help with the right programs and the right potential discounts, discount rebates, performance rebates, more MDFs, more enablement, whatever it might be that really helps them. Whereas there might be ones who are just not struggling and they're asking for it because, well, who wouldn't ask for it? And I give them a little less. And you can also weed out the ones that were never performing well, and just because they're struggling now doesn't mean you need to actually help them. So data is where you're going to find that information, and you need to have high quality and timely data to make that information, those decisions, effective.
Just to jump on that, you're absolutely right. In my opinion, now is not the time to try to get to certain partners and fix them, right? Now is not the time to take that long tail that we have and to try to go in and fix it. It's the wrong time to do it. And I know there are people listening in on this call who don't want to hear that. I mean, there was a time where, one of the companies I ran would have been considered a long tail many years ago. And you want to be sympathetic to what's trying to be done, but there's only so much resource, right? There's only so much water in the well. And vendors have to be careful because it's very easy to get caught into that, it's a whirlpool, and it's a bad situation.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a bit of channel. Let's just to chip on that. It's a bit of channel Darwinism, right, Sal? Where it's like our friend Larry Walsh, a good friend of the channel focus community, talks about this quite a bit in normal times. He talked about it, but yeah, if you're fixing people now, you are potentially committing unnatural acts to sustain something that isn't sustainable, and you're potentially going to waste resources. So I was just going through the PPP loan data that was released through Freedom of Information Act, and just kind of looking by sector, kind of how it broke down. It's delivered by state, or maybe there's a national file for this program, but service industries, of course, were the #1 segment that took money, and specifically then it's kind of lawyers and accountants are at the top, unsurprisingly. But IT service partners are in there somewhere. I'm sure that enough of them got PPP loans that needed that program here in the U.S. To sustain themselves for a bit. But some of them, it's kind of exposing, if I can relate it to kind of the mask shortages and those kind of things we've had here in the U.S. hospital system. Who knew that we didn't have a big warehouse somewhere by that, they had inventory, and that very quickly we were running out. So it's kind of exposing, something that wasn't prepared. Similar in the same fashion here in the IT industry, that there are many channel partners who instantly cash flow was a big issue for them. So I think, to Chanan's point, what we're seeing customers do is make those kind of extensions on MDF programs, and then also look at things kind of related to the sales and marketing help that are needed, giving opportunities to do direct pay on MDF. So like, what if a channel partner doesn't have to lay out the cash to an agency to get the sales and marketing help they need, and then submit a claim to get reimbursed, and the 30, 60, 90 kind of whatever the time is there. What if, as an agency, they're just getting paid directly by the brand, providing the support to the partner, and the agency can collect, according to the claim process. It's a way to make the channel partner not have to put money out only to try to collect it back when they need to hold on to it just to make payroll potentially. So.
Yeah, good point.
Okay, and I've got a very specific question. We're being pressured to make changes to the timing on our deal reg and product trials programs. Do you think this is something we should be doing?
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, I think so too. But extending the deal reg timeline, so adding another 90 days or 180 days, whatever the case may be. But without a doubt, I agree with Mike.
Well, I'll tell you that the story around Zoom, I think, is Zoom quickly turned into Kleenex, right? People weren't talking about GoToWebinar or all these other kind of tools. Like Zoom has become like in a very crowded space, they became the de facto product really quickly. And then when all of this started in mid-March, all of a sudden everybody was Zooming, and Zoom CEO made a policy change and basically said Zoom is now free to all education institutions until the end of the school year when this passes, right? Quickly they had to ramp up market share, security issues, all the kind of stuff that came after that. But I think this is a time to show empathy. People are watching, people will remember how you and your company are operating during this time. And if you are digging deep into T's and C's to find reasons why you can't be a human being and be empathetic as a company, then people will remember that and how you treated them. So as long as it's reasonable, I don't think you do extend deadlines on deal reg or other things if there's no good reason to. But I think if it's customer driven and need driven, if you have, especially when you look at some of the research Larry Walsh has done at 2112 Group around the customers that Dan made the point earlier about certain segments, industry segments are moving forward. There are solution areas in IT that are still moving forward. Larry collected some data on that, specifically things like, no surprise, remote work, IT security. Those are still high, in fact, increasing demand because of the distributed workforce. So if you have partners who are serving that segment because that's where you deliver solution, then it makes a ton of sense to be more flexible on trials. Let's really make sure people are happy and satisfied and not endlessly, right? I wouldn't want to do a trial for a year or two, but if they need a little bit more time in trial, if they need more flexibility on deal reg to satisfy the needs of customers because everything is upside down, then why wouldn't you do something like that? Because your competition will. And so I'd rather be driving that change in the industry versus letting it happen to me and fighting it and then finally giving in when the rest of the market goes that way.
I agree with you totally. I think that if you don't, your competitors will, and that will be remembered. I think the relationships and what you do for partners now is going to have very long-term impacts with your partners.
Okay, and here's a question that we could probably talk about for hours, but maybe I can fire this at you, Chanan. And the question is, what key changes are the panel seeing in terms of incentive programs? And I think the thought behind that is what is being incented and how's that changing courtesy of the crisis versus the way it was before. And Chanan, I don't know if you want to step in on that one.
Yeah. I think there's two trends that I'm seeing, other than the ones that we spoke about already, like the extension of MDF programs and just being sensitive to channel needs, which I think if you're not doing it, you should be doing it. And I am seeing a lot of companies already doing it. But if I look at the nature of the programs themselves, I think there's 1.5 trends. One thing is trying to create a better correlation between concessions and actual outcomes, which is, I don't see a huge amount of pressure on it, but I do see a desire of companies to try and tone down some of the discount rebating they're doing for specific deals, specific customers, and tie them more towards performance rebates, both operationally simpler and with some correlation to volume consumption. I see a desire to do that. I think it's been put a little on hold because of current conditions and people still wanting to be sensitive. But generally, I'm seeing a trend towards more companies wanting to experiment on that front. What I am seeing very specific, and especially in this environment, is that some program definitions are actually getting very, very specific. Instead of being very broad term, sell $1 million or something, I'll pay you 2 points. It's here's a customer subset or segments that I really care about, that I know we can either win more market share or make better margins on, and therefore you, the channel, will do better on. And I may still have some generic programs, but I will have an overlay that says, if you go and sell in this segment, this territory, this type of customer, this area in the marketplace, your payout will be significantly better. Getting more specific with those, I'm seeing an increase in those trends. And it does require, a more robust capability to, first of all, manage more of these programs that now become very specific in their T's and C's, and be able to match the data coming in from the channels to validate them. But the companies who have those capabilities are doing a lot more of it, because it is driving better results both for them and for the channel. So those are the 1.5 trends I'm seeing.
Okay. Anyone else want to step in on that one?
Yeah, I'd like to jump in on that, because we're seeing two that are very distinct. The thing about Mindmatrix is that we don't just service the vendor side of the business, we service the MSP. We have two distinct offerings. And the reason I point that out is because we're seeing trends coming in from both sides. And first, the trend we're seeing on the MSP side is we're seeing, and I think everyone's going to jump on this, we're seeing a much greater interest in automation, particularly around marketing automation, to the point where we actually went into this thinking to ourselves during this, we probably see some type of a decline in overall, the funnel and the opportunities coming in. And we're not. On the MSP side, we're seeing an increase in the number of MSPs who are reaching out to us saying, hey, we wish we had done this 6 or 10 months ago. And I'm sure, a lot of platforms, not just us, but we wish we had done this. And all of a sudden, the result of that is we're seeing that side of the business become more transactional. In other words, we're not looking at the long cycles. So I think the move to automation, particularly in the MSP side, has started to take an upturn, and we're seeing some trend. The second one we're seeing on the vendor side, and I'd really love to hear what you guys think about this, a much bigger interest in ROI, more so than it was always there. It was always kind of knocking on the back door, right? But now it's being brought up in almost every single one of our larger vendor opportunities that prospects we're talking to. ROI comes up constantly. I mean, I just got off a call this morning, and I had another one yesterday where ROI was a primary focus of it.
So when you talk about ROI, you're referring to the ROI from specific programs or general ROI from the channel?
It's actually broader, Chanan. It's the ROI and deployment of more channel automation from the vendors, channel automating to the partner. We haven't seen it come up that much. Now, maybe that's because they're looking at their projects more carefully because of the spend and the budget. But regardless of why, the trend seems to be there. We're seeing it. So.
Well, I think that's because having channel tools, for a long time has been table stakes, or for, there's a maturity level you reach as a company where you have to have a partner portal, you have to have some channel marketing technology, you have to have some infrastructure and tools. But of course, just like channel partners are facing a lot of pressure and cash flow, some of the brands are as well. And they have to make those kind of difficult choices about where they're going to invest. So should they run another campaign through their the direct side of their business and the demand center team, or should they put more money into channel because channel partner is going to get the exponential growth that we all promise with the channel? So yeah, we see that with customers too, and I think that how they're kind of reshaping their programs in a lot of ways is looking at so much of the incentives that the brands will align sit on the transaction itself, right? When a deal closed, we're going to pay a rebate. When this sale or renewal or those kind of things. What we're seeing and we're coaching customers on to a certain extent here is thinking about what are the steps that lead up to that, right? If the sales processes become elongated even further in your solution area because of the pandemic, what can you do to incentivize channel partners to still go and build that pipeline and build out the opportunities so that when the sales eventually come, you can still incentivize that piece with rebates as well. But what are the leading indicators of behavior that are going to help drive us in the right direction? Because if we're all just sitting around waiting for the sale to happen and all the money sits on the sale, and it's going to take 6 months longer than it was before, or even 3 months longer, that's going to create some problems in the channel. So how do we keep them engaged, keep them participating in programs, try to bring a little fun into life? Actually, there's a gal on LinkedIn that I'm connected with. She's doing a lot of direct mail kind of shipping of stuff out to channel partners right now. which, direct mail, when did you think that was going to come back up, right? But people are all shut in their house, and you probably look forward to the Amazon Prime truck coming to your house every day, just like I do, because they come as often as the mailman at this point. But isn't it fun when UPS or FedEx comes and brings something that you weren't expecting, and it's a positive impression from your brand partner on some kind of program or something you participated in? So there is, despite what we're all going through, an opportunity to bring a little fun back into the channel and to get back to some tactics, do personalized direct mail, those kind of things. People worry I don't have channel partner addresses, but if I sent Dan an email right now and said, Dan, I have something I'd like to send to you, would you mind telling me the best address to send it to? He would give it to me, and I would send him something nice.
Who is this, and how did you find me?
Yeah, I'm not gonna, it's like, not going to send something bad to you. You can trust me with your home address, right? So I think we're seeing more of that in the channel, and people are trying to make those human connections and do that at scale as much as you can.
Okay. Let me step in here, guys, because I've got a bunch of questions coming in, and I want to cover those. I think this one is perhaps, if I can direct this at you, Dan, and it's, do you think that channel KPIs need to be adapted? And if so, which ones?
I think they do need to be adapted. I think that we are entering a new norm and a new way of doing business, and with a distributed workforce. And man, which ones? Tough to say. I mean, it could be a lot of them. One thing that I think is really interesting, I think it's going to be a kind of a fundamental shift that channel leaders are going to need to think about is their partner management and their partner field teams, because traditionally partners are either self-serve through a portal, or they got telesales and telemanagers, or they've got direct account managers. And now that most of that work has gone remote, that need for direct managers might be on the decline. And so vendors may be thinking or rethinking about how they manage their partner channel and focusing more on a tele approach for the entirety of their channel. And I think that the KPIs and the metrics around their partner channel support systems are going to probably drastically need to be rethought and potentially changed. I don't know. That's like an immediate one that kind of came to mind for me.
Okay. Chanan, do you want to come in on that one? KPIs, what needs to be changed?
I honestly haven't put enough thought into it, so I would primarily focus it back to ROIs, but not just limited to the marketing areas, but actually being able to articulate the KPIs of incentive programs, and actually being more diligent at defining what they are when you're designing the program, not trying to measure them after the fact and see what worked, but actually be more diligent at setting very specific goals for programs, and then being able to very accurately measure them back. Moving away from this sort of black box of, I did 100 programs, I got this outcome, but I don't really know which one of them drove which result. So that's the one thing I think is getting a little more specific.
I think given the high percentage, Rod, that was given to remote selling, maybe we look at KPIs, come back to that, right? Because that seems to be a problem that I think we need to keep our eyes on. And I guess there's two things I would look at given the difficulty of remote selling for partners. The first would be lead conversion as a KPI. I think I'd want to look at that and say, okay, you were running a 7 or an 8% lead conversion, let's say on a SaaS product or out of trials or whatever it is we're measuring. If remote selling is really that difficult, then I think we might have to adjust that KPI and then help to get the number where we need it to be. And I think the second one is I think we need to look at length of sales cycle, because length of sales cycle will come directly back to ultimately all the numbers that we and the partners are interested in, right? Moving things through the funnel, where are we engaging in the sales cycle? How much of a digital presence? How's the partner experience going? So if you put a gun to my head now, and to Chanan's point, without having given this much thought, but a knee-jerk reaction, those I think would be the two, would be sales cycles and lead conversion rates off the top of my head, and I reserve the right to change that 180 degrees in about an hour.
I might add one too, jumping on Sal's point, is I think that, and Mike touched on it, the incentives are starting to move away from transactional. And I think that as more and more solutions become either subscription-based or even consumption-based, the focus on the long-term value of a customer and the customer satisfaction is going to be paramount. So I think the KPIs and the metrics are over time need to start shifting toward customer satisfaction and revenue recapture rates and renewal rates on subscriptions. And that's got to really be as the solutions move more and more to that model, that needs to be kind of paramount and front and center for vendors.
Okay.
Yeah,
Coming back to that remote selling piece, because I think that's really, really important. It was the number one thing. Specifically, what can a vendor do to help a partner that's struggling with remote selling? Because I know I've spoken to a lot of MSPs, they're struggling with the fact that they used to turn up on the customer's doorstep, the potential customer's doorstep. They used to have regular meetings with the CEO of their key customers. Now they're having to do everything remotely, and there's a lot of struggle going on there. What can we specifically do to help them do that better?
Video. So, everybody's got a webcam, but not everybody uses it well or knows what to do with it. So one of the ideas that I've been sharing with our customers is specifically around video, talking partners through the process of how do you sell through video, right? So there's kind of the face-to-face selling in a Zoom call, those kind of things. How do you convey a degree of professionalism? There's a favorite Twitter account that I have where they rate people's Skype room or something like that. It's called Room Rater, and he kind of gives people score and kind of the background, right? Dan gets bonus points for having a plant there, right? So there's little kind of touches like that, but we're actually recommending insofar as go and buy a high def camera. Like I've got a nice Logitech one that sits on top of my monitor. I've got a Jabra headset that I love. It's wireless. You can hear me really well, right? I don't want to hear people yelling at their laptops during a call. Beyond that, kind of where does it go? There's a vendor that I love called Vidyard, V-I-D-Y-A-R-D. They have a nice little Chrome plugin. I can record a quick little video. In fact, the last time I did one of these for my colleagues, I still have the whiteboard, hi Anissa and Joseph, right? I recorded a little video just internally because I wanted to explain something to them. I hold up the whiteboard as a way to catch their attention in the thumbnail, and then it gets a better open rate when the message is received. Not that I have a hard time with my colleagues, they're great. But you get the point. I was trying to demonstrate the concept for them in a program that we're going to run here. But it's those little touches. I think partners need a lot of coaching, not just use video in your sales, but specifically download the Chrome plugin from Vidyard, set up your account, create a little video. Here's what it looks like. Here's how to do it. Again, I really love boot camps, and I ran a lot of those as a channel and field marketer. Partners need that kind of support and ongoing repetitions to be able to get the new behaviors, and then to celebrate the successes, but also get feedback on the shortcomings if those, take place. So that's my number one tip. Not that it's original. It's just, again, people need help kind of putting the pieces together.
Okay. And I've got another great question coming in. What would you recommend for a newer company looking to grow and leverage the channel during this pandemic? How would they get mind share, recruit new partners, etc.? So any tips for perhaps a smaller company coming in what is a very difficult time?
Well, Rod, there's actually a whole handbook that has been developed by CompTIA. For those of you who don't know them on the call, it's COMP and then TIA, CompTIA, and they're a sort of an industry standards organization. And when you can go read about them. But I'm actually on their channel advisory board, and over the last year or so, the team has worked diligently to put together a handbook that does just that. What are the questions you should ask yourself as a business? What are the things you should know? What are the litmus tests you should put yourself through? How you should progress through the cycle? What is the cycle for recruitment and enablement, et cetera, et cetera? For you as an MSP, how are you getting yourself spun up? I would defer to that. I think the document may be overkill. There's a lot in it, but that's what CompTIA does. They take it to the limit. You can pull from it the things you need, but you can go look that up, and I'm pretty sure it's available. And if it's not, if they haven't yet published it, you can certainly reach out to me via email, and I'll see when it's available, and I'll get you on a distribution list. But it's a really great document, A to Z. So
super.
I think another thing that if you're looking to build or accelerate your channel, I think getting crisp on your particular, as a vendor, getting crisp on your particular partner value prop is really important. So, really understanding where you play and how you play and in relation to your competitors, because partners really look at kind of three core elements when they're thinking about whose solutions to go to market with. Their relationship with the vendor, the momentum that the solution or the product has in the market, and then finally the economics. What's the potential upside for them as a partner. And so you as a vendor should be evaluating where you're at across all three of those measures, and either addressing where there's deficits or amplifying where you feel like you've got an edge, and to make your case for partners, because it's a competitive world, and you need to be clear about where you sit in it, and to entice partners to come and sell your solutions.
Yeah, I think you need to pitch it just like you would pitch it to investors, because what you're really asking the channel to do is to invest. It's to invest their resources, to come up to speed about what your product does, what your service does, what is the value proposition. The more you can get it into a very condensed message of how it is particularly relevant to their position in the market, the kind of customers they serve, why now is a good time to open up this door, because it opens up another revenue stream for them with some advantages where others might be slowing down right now. Just making it very, very relevant and very crisp, just like you would any investor pitch.
Okay, and got another question coming through. In fact, I got bundles of questions coming through. So for anyone whose question we don't get to, our panelists, and they're all sitting in front of you now, so here's putting them on the line, promise to answer those questions so we can post them by the end of tomorrow. So let me go through another couple of really good questions we've got here. One of the questions I've got, and I'm trying to word this in the right way. I'm being told that trust is all important at the moment in the vendor partner relationship. Anyone got any really good ideas on how to build that trust? And Chanan, you were shaking your head, nodding your head very frantically there. So perhaps if I can come into you with that one.
Sure, I think it ties back to many of the things that the team has already said. It starts, first of all, with, are you coming to them with information that's going to help them? Okay, and that information come in many forms. It's, look, here's what I'm seeing across all my other channels. Here's an aggregated view. Here's how you might be differing in terms of performance, market focus, whatever, or product line focus, whatever it might be. And I'm giving you this information from across all of my channels to help you be more successful. That level of openness, that level of education and insight that you're giving to them will go a very long way in building trust that this is truly a two-way partnership, that you're invested in making them successful. I think that's one thing. I think the other thing that would be very relevant again is all the enablement. Now is the time. Both Mike and Dan spoke about this. About now is the time to show the human side of this relationship and invest in. If we had education libraries that before we would charge you something for, or make it wasn't easy for you to get access for, here's all the enablement tools. Here's all the content we've created. Here's how you can reuse them. Here's tips that Mike was offering on how to use video or other things like that. All these engagements that you're showing as an investment, they're not a transactional discussion. They are really about helping, I think is going to go a long way. And last but not least is putting your money where your mouth is. And aligning, again, the programs to where we think you're going to be successful, extending registrations, extending MDFs. You do all these things, you're going to build trust. And it's not trust just for now. It'll pay dividends into the future.
Okay. And I'm going to finish with a final question. And I think, again, we could talk about this one for days, never mind the next couple of minutes. But the question is, remote selling equals remote purchasing. What kind of impact are you seeing marketplaces, i.e. Amazon, having on traditional vendor relations models? Now, there's a real Lulu for everyone. Who wants to come in on that one? Dan, do you want to take a little crack at that?
Yeah, you bet. it's interesting because this topic and this conversation has, really reared up in the last, 3-4 months, and I don't know what the impact will be, but I think there is going to be an impact. I think you are going to see a resurgence, within marketplaces, and direct consumer and prosumer is going to become a larger piece of vendor companies, go-to-market strategy, and it needs to be, and because you're trying to enable, a largely distributed remote workforce in a different capacity and different manner than you have in the past. So I think that is certainly going to be a mechanism that's going to be employed and is going to be an important one going forward.
But I think we've seen, even with the Zoom example again, companies who use this as an opportunity, this circumstance as an opportunity to reduce the red tape and the bureaucracy in the procurement process, right? It's like, is it an opportunity to go back to your legal and your finance team and just say, we need to cut the BS, we need to get to a click to sign type of agreement where customers can quickly move forward to onboarding versus drawing out the legal process. Just even in our own example, when we were at Veritech, we used to have terms and conditions in our contract. We moved to, took it out essentially, made it a master agreement that every customer contract referred to, and all of a sudden we stopped paying all kinds of legal fees negotiating terms every time, right? So if you just kind of use these opportunities and kind of these inflection points to make those kind of changes happen, then all of a sudden you can get things maybe that you've always wanted from a sales organization standpoint, where now finally the executive staff, legal, finance will prioritize those things to help you get through it so that you can just serve the needs of customers and help your channel partners grow instead of putting people through these kind of, well, that's the way we've always done it kind of processes.
Okay. We're pretty much out of time, but if I could ask each of you to very briefly comment one really good idea that you've seen that'll help the people on the call do a better job of answering the needs of their partners. And Sal, maybe I can start with you.
Yeah, it's easy. Transparency. That to me is the key. Partners are the same as us. We're the same as them. There's no longer a delineation. We're in a small industry, even though it's global. The same people you see here, you're going to see there, and who works for who, and this and that. So the days of, hiding the number in the back and giving it to the customer, those are long gone. Just transparency on all things you do. Transparency.
Mike.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about what, we should, so like, who are we to give you this kind of advice, right? Like, we're 4 vendors in the industry. We serve channel organizations. And so, in the day-to-day work of all of us, we spend a lot of time talking to our customers about what they're hearing, what they're concerned about. And so I guess the biggest advice, and kind of related to what Sal's saying, is, it's a transparency, but it's also seeking that feedback, gaining input from partners. You're not always going to be able to do everything that they want you to do, but it's good to hear from them nonetheless, and then look at how you can take some of those as opportunities, prioritize them. It also, unfortunately makes a really good stump speech later on for your CMO or your CEO to come back and say, we collected your feedback and here's what you told us and here's what we're doing to change our business to better serve your needs, right? Like, that's kind of every partner conference speech recipe. As long as it's sincere and empathetic and helping, not selling, all the things we've talked about, it's the right thing to do. So I think really bringing together your partner advisory council, not kicking it, because you can't get together in person, but convene it online. Get more of your execs on that Zoom meeting with your partner advisory board than what you would have been able to do in person because of the situation, and hear more partner feedback, bring them in, trust them, they'll trust you back. It all kind of comes together.
Okay. Chanan.
I was on mute there. First of all, agree completely with everything Mike and Sal said, so I won't repeat it. The only thing I would say is, right now, don't lose the momentum to continue engaging with your partners. Yes, there's a mess going on out there, but the world is not going to stop. Their business is going to be vital for your growth in the future. So now is still a very good time to invest in the channel. Maybe not doing new things. It's more around enablement. It's more about listening. It's more about transparency, but keep the engagements and keep the investment going.
Okay. And Dan, last but by no means least.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that the rest of the panelists said. I think maybe the other piece of advice that I would offer is that, as a vendor, no one knows your business and your space better than you, and you've got a channel there that offers you, use that scale to your advantage and capture best practices and then push out those best practices as best and as fast as you can. You as a vendor are going to be, in better shape if all your partners are doing well. And so, use the opportunity to collect best practices, share them out. If things are working and, over here, see if we can't replicate it over here, and, things of that nature, and be, empathetic and magnanimous with that information and transparent, like Sal was saying.
Fabulous. Sal, Mike, Dan, Chanan, thank you very much indeed for some great insights. If we didn't get to your question, as I say, our panelists have promised to get the answers, and we will post those on the site tomorrow. But thank you everyone for attending. Thank you panelists for some great insights. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Rod. Thanks, everybody.
Take care, guys.
Bye.